Welcome to the DeFi podcast, where we discuss all things DeFi. We host in-depth discussions with industry leaders with a focus on the Avalanche ecosystem. The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. Statements made by hosts or guests reflect their own beliefs and opinions and is not investment advice. The hosts or guests may have personal investments in any assets being discussed.
So getting more into talking about GoGoPool itself, you have GoGoPool featuring ggAVAX, which is a liquid staking token, and it's also a subnet infrastructure play. Can you talk about how these different pieces come together?
Yeah, so GoGoPool is a decentralized liquid staking protocol built to help Avalanche subnets grow. And there's sort of two components to it. Like you said, one is liquid staking protocol. You stake your AVAX, highest ROI way to stake AVAX, either through liquid staking, ggAVAX, so then you can go play in DeFi, or as a mini pool operator, which is what we call validator nodes. So you get to launch validator nodes, earn high rewards on your validator node, and then at the same time be really close to the pulse of the subnet ecosystem, so that as subnets want to decentralize, like your mini pool can get integrated into these subnets. The second part, and that's very much kind of like our version of Lido, but on Avalanche, or our version of Jito on Avalanche, right? It's like a liquid staking specifically to hit the pain points that AVAX has. And then on the other side, we've started to think more of it like kind of like Chainlink, actually, where we're creating all sorts of products and services for subnet teams and for people who are figuring out like, okay, how do I get started in Web3? How do I figure out my tokenomics? How do I figure out my security posture? How do I figure out my regulatory posture? How do I navigate through making some of my key kind of decentralization choices? How do I actually build a subnet? How do I tweak and tune the VM? All that type of stuff. So we've been building a lot of tools, and they're still just pumping out nice tools. And kind of the goal here with that stuff is, all right, we're going to help subnets kind of get off the ground, launch and grow, and then they'll be able to decentralize through the GoGoPool protocol.
Cool. I do like the idea of lowering the barrier of entry for people who actually want to run validators on the network. Trying to fork up that 2000 AVAX seems pretty daunting. So I think making that barrier of entry lower and easier to access is a great idea. So I commend you guys on your innovation here.
I appreciate that. And what we're seeing is especially impactful for retail, because these subnet teams, they also need validator nodes. That's cool. We also have a grants program that basically helps them get set up with to bootstrap their Genesis validator set with highly trusted node operators. So we lowered the cost even more for some of the teams who are looking to experiment. But then on the flip side as well is what we see with the mini pools. So you can launch a validator node through GoGoPool for half the cost by getting matched with liquid staking funds. And what we see is that's actually enabled a lot of retail people to kind of come into AVAX, spin up more nodes, or split their already existing large node into many small nodes. So we're seeing that's also both strengthening and decentralizing the Avalanche network. I think right now we're running around 160 or 170 validator nodes, which is about 10% of the Avalanche network. And to any project or any team looking to deploy a blockchain system, that gives you a really good way to decentralize with guardrails, right? I'm going to launch my subnet first using a GoGo grant, and I'll have 8 validator nodes. And then as I'm starting to figure out product market fit, and I want to start testing things and decentralize a bit more and make things a bit more concrete, then suddenly you have all these node operators who run on good hardware, they have a good reputation, et cetera. You can just kind of scale through them as much as you need to keep testing kind of what's the next iteration of my app, what's the next iteration of the project, next iteration of the subnet. So we're seeing amazing feedback on that. And that's something that I'm personally really looking forward to in this new year.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing a lot of the recent and upcoming developments for not just you guys, but the Avalanche ecosystem in general. I think it's come forward a lot with some of the recent developments that they've made.
Yeah, there's a lot to be bullish about here, Jared. I mean, Avalanche has just gone through a massive infrastructure tooling movement that took about 2.5 years, and AWM is sort of in the last 20% of things that have to get shipped. And it's shipping, like the developer preview, I think is going live. Maybe it already is live, or maybe it'll be live in the next week or two. And then after that, it'll be kind of launching a subnet, doing ACP13, which you can talk about a little bit, but reducing the cost to running and validating a subnet a lot lower. And then now suddenly a team can, like at almost zero cost, start building my own subnet where I have complete control over it. Plus I have this native trustless permissionless bridge with AWM. So I can do very interesting kind of messages. Plus it's all super fast, and they're making it even faster. They're souping it up even more in terms of how high this thing can scale. So like teams will be given a Ferrari at the price of a Ford very quickly, like within the next month or so on Avalanche. And then on top of that, you're seeing kind of this huge macro trends we've talked about, more interest in creating trustless systems that scale and meet a high throughput, high demand. Yeah, we're pumped.
Can you, just a sort of personal curiosity for your perspective, can you kind of break down where you see some of the advantages of subnets over, for example, an L2?
Yeah, well, with the subnet, you own your own chain from bottom of the stack to top of the stack. So every single thing the subnet team can control, manipulate, configure, like they get all the levers and all the knobs right there in front of them. So you can really do whatever you want. And then at the same time, there's all these tools to help you kind of accelerate through this iteration process or through the learning process. Not to mention, again, very high scale, can scale to thousands of validator nodes, et cetera. So that's like you're creating your own blockchain system. In L2 right now, seems like they're still stuck at 1530 TPS. Seems like you're still relying, like maybe there's no validator nodes and you're just relying on a sequencing set, which seems like right now people are trying to figure out how to decentralize a sequencing set. So that seems a little bit promising, but it's not as focused on performance as of yet. Actually, there's an amazing subnet team who's working on that problem right now, so that they're using the Avalanche Ferrari engine to power a decentralized sequencer called NodeKit. And then that seems extremely promising. But then within L2 as well, it seems like there's not a clear vision to connecting all the different L2s to create this global interoperability with a trustless bridge between L2s. And at the same time, I don't really control my blockchain. Like if I'm posting transactions to an L2, that's then getting rolled up to get posted on Ethereum or a data availability layer like Celestia or whatever. So then it's like, okay, I guess it's not my data anymore. Is it ETH's data now? Right. So now I'm trusting Ethereum versus have my own little sandbox, which is what I was looking for. So that, yeah, my perspective is L2 seem like a really great way for both the crypto native crowd and for someone who just wants I just want to test something, like maybe a game who just wants something like small to prove a concept something really, really quickly. But subnets are more for teams who want to own every part of their blockchain, configure the token the way they want to. And then if they want to post it to an L2, then you can just like add that on, right? But you don't need to default agree to kind of join the ETH ecosystem, which I know me saying that is going to pain a lot of crypto Twitter people to hear, because it's like, I mean, ETH is definitely the OG and I love them. Like frankly, amazing work, created the industry. But at the same time, the current crypto is built for thousands of users a month, not really millions of users per month, right? So it's just totally different audiences of who's interested in subnets versus who needs an L2. So I think there'll be some conflict there, especially crypto Twitter, but to a certain point, it's probably good.
I hear a lot of people talking about, trying to compare L2s and subnets, and I don't really think they compare because they have different use cases, right? Like you're using them for different means. But yeah, that's just my perspective.
No, and I think to a lot of less business savvy people, that really hurts their brains because it's like, no, it's either an L2 or a subnet. But then as an operator and someone in the industry, and I'm talking to teams I talk to teams who use L2s, I talk to teams who are exploring subnets and use subnets, right? Like seeing the whole kind of chessboard in front of us. they will absolutely coexist. They will absolutely coexist and find their own segments of people that it works perfectly for them. And at the end of the day, crypto wins out of that, right?
Yep.
You just get more ways to approach how to create a blockchain and how to help bring blockchain technology to the world, which then, again, according to our big macro flywheel we're talking about, I think it's just another accelerant on top of that. Because if an L2 gets a success, that's just going to feed more into top of funnel, more at the top of the flywheel for all of crypto. So that's pretty exciting.
Yep. So very quickly on the liquid staking side of things, how would you say GoGoPool differs from other liquid staking providers?
Yeah, so I think probably the most important to me is the mission of it is completely different. For ggAVAX, it's to be the best DeFi primitive, absolutely, have the widest DeFi coverage. But at the same time, this liquid staking token is specifically meant to help decentralize the Avalanche network and help Avalanche subnets grow. And so because of that, that kind of gives us a very different framing on what a liquid staking token means, where one, every more concrete differentiators, I suppose, or to directly answer the question is one, for every AVAX that's being staked through ggAVAX, that then gets matched to a validator node and launches one net new node called the mini pool for the Avalanche network. So again, we're running 10% of the Avalanche network through GoGoPool, which is pretty incredible, especially as we just launched about like 6 months ago.
It's impressive.
For sure. So like that's one, I think that to me, that's the hard line differentiator. But then as we dig a little bit deeper, then there are a lot of different kind of security postures are different between the tokens as well. We are the only token that uses a multi-sig for the P chain. So how liquid staking on Avalanche works is you have the P chain, which has the AVAX staking yield on it. And then you have the C chain, which is where all DeFi is. That's where wallets are. That's where smart contracts are, et cetera. And a smart contract can't send AVAX and stake AVAX onto the P chain because that requires, actually moving that AVAX. So different teams have figured out a different solution. We're the only team who has actually created a full-fledged multi-sig wallet solution, that a multi-party compute solution that works for the P chain as well as for the C chain. So now we're the only people that secure all the assets on the P chain using a multi-sig. And then this system also acts as an oracle to the rest of the protocol. So I would say those two are very different. And then 3 is this stuff isn't announced yet, but we'll be creating a platform around the ggAVAX token that is specifically geared to, again, help subnets grow. And I think that'll be a blend of both kind of table stakes innovations to help boost DeFi yield, but then 2, we'll be bringing some more innovative surprises to the table as well, help shift the market.
Awesome. So there are some other players in the same space. I'm just wondering, are you worried about competitors, or do you think that you've got well enough nested in your own niche that you guys have a good sort of safety buffer?
I suppose time will tell. I think time will tell. Overall, though, what we've seen from the growth of other liquid staking tokens on other networks, it's that vampire attacks don't work. Being directly competitive doesn't work. The only thing that actually works to grow your own liquid staking token so far, as far as what we can tell, and from the principles, I think this lines up, is to go after new markets, right? So like which for an LST token, like looking critically at, okay, what type of person uses this and why? And then what is that total market size? So when we look at market sizes on Avalanche, I think I'm going to be wrong on my numbers, but is it like 40% of all staked ETH is on an LST?
Somewhere around there.
I think on Avalanche, that number is somewhere sub 5%.
Right.
So there is a lot of room to grow. The ceiling on it is extremely high. And if the number on it is sub 5%, the AVAX, the current leading liquid staking token, they make up like 4.9% of that. Again, the percentages are wrong, but it's something nominally low. It's like the first inning, basically. And what that tells me is that a traditional liquid staking token, as we know of like STETH with Lido, isn't really the thing. Like the way that all these people are pitching liquid staking tokens is that it's a winner takes most market, and that it's true, but it kind of depends which markets you're going for. So I would say I'm not too concerned, because when I look at those numbers, it's like, oh shit, okay, like we have not even gotten started with liquid staking tokens on Avalanche. It's still very, very low, and I think there's a lot of reasons of why LST adoption on AVAX is so low compared to total staked AVAX, versus like what we see happening on ETH and Solana. But I think there's, quite frankly, it's like just beginning right now.
Cool. What are the most exciting products that you have that are either in the thinking process or that are actually in development that are not released yet? What's in store for the future of GoGoPool? At least anything that you can share.
Yeah, well, I think one huge advancement happened December 4th, is that we shipped a keynote, kind of me giving my version of Steve Jobs impression, kind of pitching, what are we doing? Here are the things that we're announcing. Here's some demos, etc. It was like 15 minutes long, something like that. It's kind of short. But as a part of that, we announced two things, which I'm incredibly excited to keep building on top of. The first is we launched, now for the first time ever, I think in all of crypto, people tell me in all of crypto, for the first time ever, in one click, one transaction, you can now launch a validator node, and everything's figured out for you, and it's all completely smart contract based. So that means the smart contract handles converting your AVAX, staking on the P chain, handles converting some of the AVAX to USDC to pay for a server, and also, because it's through our mini pool, through our protocol, converts AVAX into the GGP token so that can get staked, so that then you can enter the queue to get matched funds, where the GGP tokens uses collateral for the matched funds. So normally what would take 3 transactions, like 3 different platforms like Trader Joe, all nodes, plus a credit card, plus find USDC, etc., like waiting for the node to get revved up and actually get launched. Now it's actually pretty spectacular. It's just one click. All you have to do is hold AVAX in your wallet, and then your validator node gets spun up for 1,100 AVAX is the minimum cost, which is down from 2,000 AVAX, as you know, to like stake a node by yourself on Avalanche. And by going through this process, so now it's one click, and you're earning 20 to 30% APY on this versus the 8% or 7%, 7.5 of an Avalanche validator node validating solo. So that was pretty incredible. When we launched that, I think the following 2 weeks, I think we went from running, I think 70 validator nodes to running 150 validator nodes. And that was pretty incredible to see, of like, oh shit, like people really care about the mission. People really care about this liquid staking protocol, this new way to earn yield. And also really care about validator nodes. So that was pretty incredible. And the second big primitive that we shipped is when you're running a validator node, there's no way to tie your node ID or your reputation on the P chain to a smart contract address or to a C chain wallet address, because these are, again, 2 totally different systems: P chain for validators, C chain for normal crypto or the EVM. So if I'm running a validator node, there's no way to connect my 2 wallets, which means for a subnet, it's like, okay, how do I incentivize subnets to join? Well, I want to provide an airdrop, right? To like all the validators on Avalanche right now, I want to airdrop my token to them. There's no way to do that, which is there was no way to do that. There's a pretty big missing gap in terms of planning out a subnet launch, right? Like I just have no way to actually incentivize validators to check me out. So then we built a system that then lets a node operator verify their node ID or verify their P chain address, and then tie that to a C chain wallet address. And then now subnets have, or any project really, has a one-click way to airdrop tokens to validators. So coming extremely soon is we'll be building on top of both of these things, just adjusting all the feedback that we heard and making them bigger and better, making them more useful to validator node operators and to subnet projects. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I can talk about right now. But then on top of that, we're working on a DevRel platform, so that now we can promote, like, there's all this amazing subnet infrastructure happening here on Avalanche, and the build out is like 80% done. So now's the time to start. All right, let's promote it to developers and attract all developers who are looking to launch a blockchain should really be checking out subnets and heavily consider it. So now we're building out a platform for that, so that devs can kind of learn about Avalanche, learn about crypto, go down the rabbit hole, and then start planning out their subnet launches. I think that's something that's going to be that's going to be like a sneaky thing that we'll be launching. That's going to be, I think, more impactful than people think, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool to see teams who go the extra mile to help developers, and not just themselves, but like the space as a whole, by creating resources for devs to improve the system. The more devs, the better, pretty much.
Well, for sure. And just to be clear here, we're following a, like, this is a business strategy, right? It's like,
Mhm.
okay, like infrastructure is good. Now we need to make a flywheel of the more devs that check out subnets, the more people or the more projects that will launch subnets that want to decentralize. They probably will have a token as well. By the way, 90% of the subnet teams or project blockchain teams I talk to, all of them want to decentralize, become a permissionless network. They're just trying to figure out how to get there, right? So if we create this platform to help grow how many developers in the Avalanche ecosystem, which then increases the velocity of their launches, which then increases the utilization and the utility of the GoGoPool protocol, which then will drive, frankly, higher token prices on the AVAX side, because now things are ripping, people are more excited, big launches are happening, which then drives more developer interest, as we talked about earlier, which then kind of keeps stepping through. So this was the original kind of thesis or idea. This is kind of the big gap we saw in the market in all blockchain. And the pieces are getting put in play. They'll be getting put in play pretty rapidly now that we have a stable product market fit with GoGoPool protocol, creates good revenue, we can build it. And then now we can start, all right, let's build out the other sections of our flywheel here.
Probably my last question. I think we've been going for a good amount of time so far. So in terms of the community aspect, Avalanche seems to have a very interesting, maybe smaller than some other places, but a very welcoming and tight-knit community. So how would you say you guys have been treated by the community so far? And how do you guys, communicate with the community on Avalanche?
Well, I think, frankly, I think we are the community. Like we're directly a part of the community. We're just one of the anons who should post on Twitter and message on Telegram and share memes around, and probably trade a little bit too much of cock coins, and like I don't know. We're right in there, so I don't even know how to answer the question. I guess we're treated pretty well, but I think it's because we try really hard to be a good citizen of the community as well, so we can start. Like, again, we're here to build something over a 10-year time frame, which is it's a very, very, very different type of thinking, I think, than most people are used to. But yeah, regardless, yeah, we're on our mission, and the whole Avalanche community is on the same mission. So I feel like we're just we're definitely a part of the community and just doing our best using the resources we have to, all right, how can we help grow this thing? How can we help usher in a new age, a new generation of subnet launches, doing all sorts of cool, wacky, amazing things? Like the dream will be complete once there's 100,000 elastic subnets in existence, and that's when we'll be like, okay, mission accomplished. We did a good thing.
Nice. Well, this has been a pretty great chat. Thanks for coming on. I think we can, if you're up for it, we can schedule another chat sometime in the future if you want to delve a bit deeper on more. I'm thinking, tokenomics, more in depth on subnets. If you want to have a conversation about that in the future. But yeah, thanks for coming on. For anybody who's watching up to this point, thank you for watching. Leave us a like, leave us some comments, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me, Jared.
Thanks for coming.